Here we go. Good morning and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I am Art Jones. I'm the principal consultant at The Art of Standing Out. And The Art of Standing Out is where we help people get alignment with their brand, their story, so they can market and sell better. And today, I have the pleasure, the awesome honor of sitting in the seat on Blab next to Blair Glaser. Somebody who really inspires me because of the work that she does and how she does it.
Thank you.
And we're going to have a chat. And for me, these chats that I have with smart people doing great work is like free counseling because they agree to come on my channel and chat. I can ask any question I want and they answer it for free. So it's a wonderful opportunity for me. And I hope for everybody in the stream to learn some things that they don't currently know about Blair, but most importantly about the work that she does. And because I'm going to be so intensely focused on this conversation that I apologize to everybody in advance. I will be looking at the stream, but mostly looking at Blair and listening to her commentary. So if somebody wants to help out with the stream and Blair, if you see something that I don't, that's a question that we should bring in or a comment, please.
It does get a little frenetic, right? When you're trying to have a really rich conversation, which I know, Art, you love, which is one of the reasons I'm excited to be here. And then trying to incorporate what people are doing on the sidelines. It does get a little bit frenetic.
Yeah, it's almost like you need a third person that's in the stream to manage the stream, and then they need to be able to private message you so it shows up on your screen as opposed to, because I will be intensely involved in this conversation. And this conversation today, and just for housekeeping, I'm going to try and fit all of my questions and guide all of your questions in the 45 minutes, because I don't want to we could do a 3-hour blab on me just asking you questions, because there's, I know, a rich and deep well of knowledge that you have to share. But 45 minutes should be enough for us to talk about your journey and your story and your expertise. And part of these chats and interviews are really born out of the idea that I believe what Elizabeth Gilbert believes. And she's the author of Eat, Pray, Love and a book, Big Magic. And I think it was when I saw her on a YouTube TED Talk or something, where she talked about life's journeys often are not straight lines. There are people that are born that are like jackhammers, and they just start jackhammering down there, and they're going to be a CPA. They know from the time that they're 2 years old and they're become a CPA and life is good.
Right.
And then she says there are other people that are like hummingbirds and bumblebees. They go from one flower where they collect pollen and learn something into another flower where they collect pollen and learn something. They are continually growing and evolving as they go from flower to flower. Today, we have the opportunity to learn out whether Blair is a jackhammer or a hummingbird or bumblebee or maybe a hybrid, a mashup of both. But I do know what I do know, because the internet is a wonderful tool to tell us what we don't know about somebody. Google. Hello, Google. Tell me about Blair Glaser.
Uh-oh.
So Blair Glaser, because I knew her from Blab, and I didn't know Pratt Institute, being from New Jersey, but having lived in Manhattan, I have a fondness for Pratt Institute. That's where all the smart people, creative people go. Institute for the Arts and Psychotherapy, National Association for Drama Therapy Education, Northwestern University, faculty, New York Coalition of Creative Arts Therapists, and a Pratt Institute visiting professor of drama therapy. That's why I love Blair, because she's just done some amazing academic work and continues to help others in that work. But if you haven't been to Blair Glaser's website, you should all go there, because when I think of the work that I do in terms of getting alignment and harmony between yourself and your brand and your marketing efforts, when I look at Blair Glaser's website, it resonates with who she is, or who I think she is. The brand called Blair lives in her website, and it's beautifully done. And it's not just pretty to look at, although her website is sexy, just like Authority is sexy. But it really is a rich site with a lot of great content that will not inform you just about Blair, but inform you about the work that she does and why it might be important to you. But I wanted to take from her website and just read something really quickly. A tagline, I guess, for Blair Glaser and the work she does is "Authority is sexy." Authority, who knew? Authority is sexy. Some people in positions of authority have given it a bad name, a bad rap. But when you stand in your personal authority, when you act as the author of your own life, there is nothing more inspiring or alluring than authority, because authority is attractive. I like that. That's just very, very powerful. But as if that wasn't enough, that brilliant commentary, let's just read one of the testimonials that Anne-Marie Gilley, a COO, a C-level executive at Miller Howard Investments, no doubt somewhere in Lower Manhattan in the financial district, perhaps, says this about Blair. Blair's wisdom helped me through a major job transition. I also hired her for team building and leadership sessions with a group that needed guidance working with each other. They effectively learned to earn respect from other teams and work with a new leader that was promoted from a group of peers. Blair's insight was well received. I would recommend her for both individual and group sessions. And because I love the executive coaching, and I come from the enterprise and have worked with people in the C-suite, CXO, I know how hard that work is.
Yeah.
And to have that kind of testimonial about the work that you do is really, really impressive. And so kudos to you. We'll get to talk more about that work that you do, but this is about your journey, and it's about your story. And this notion, and I know you are a folklorist and storyteller, and I want to tell those in the stream what I believe storytelling is and why we're using the story formula to kind of take a peek into the brand called Blair and talk about her origin story. And an origin story is a story that explains how a person became to be who she is. Stories are narrative that enables people to relate to our experience, which in many cases, their experience is like our experience. And so we're through the opportunities that Blair has encountered and how she sees them, through the challenges or struggles that Blair has experienced and how she overcame them, will be hopefully what we'll learn, and what we'll learn will serve us all in our own personal and professional lives. So having said all that, Blair, take us back to the early days when Blair was in the orchestra, the band, or on the athletic field, running track and field. Where's that place that you began to come into knowing who you are, who you were then, and how that would inform who you became today?
I think a really defining moment in my childhood, I too grew up in New York City. You were across the river, but same area. Yeah. My parents took me to see a little forever running musical called The Fantastics. Oh, yeah. I don't know if any of you out there are familiar with it. And I think I was about 6 years old. And I had then what felt to me like a mystical experience. I was so moved and awed by people singing their hearts out, literally. And that sense of electricity and aliveness was a complete, peak moment in my life. So theater at a very young age became a powerful source of transformation, of upliftment. So that was the beginning. That was at around 6. And then I wanted to be an actress. And so I started studying at 8 on Saturday mornings. My dad would walk me to the bus stop, and I would get on the bus, the New York City bus, and get off at a place called the Neighborhood Playhouse. And wow. And that began my passion for theater, which I studied pretty strongly through my undergrad at Northwestern and into my 20s.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, theater, intrigued at the Fantastics, a great play, a great musical,
Mm-hmm.
right? At 6 years old, inspired you to continue with theater forever.
Yeah, in some ways. In some ways, of course, that has been very much changed as I've moved along. I think that experience that I had in the Fantastics of being moved was what actually interested me more than putting on the same play and the same story every night. But being able to gift an audience with a shift in their own experience is something that I think has been a theme in my life as I've moved forward. To be able to intervene for the better. Yeah.
I believe storytelling is central to the work that I do, and the notion that story is primal, and that am I echoing?
I don't hear it. What about you guys?
No.
I'm going to tweet.
No? Okay.
Yes, Barb says yes. A little, says Alma.
Yes, I hear a little bit too, and I'm not sure why. Maybe I'll refresh just really quickly. I'm going to make you co-host. So if I get booted, where'd you go?
I'm here.
Where did you go? Oh, I'm looking for you up there so I can make you co-host. Okay, you became co-host. I'm going to refresh, although I'm not echoing anymore, so I'm not going to refresh. I believe story is primal. I believe humans are wired for story. I believe story can change our biology, our neurology, our physiology. It's the way we're wired. So I can see as a child, and I was the same way, going to Manhattan to watch Broadway plays. Live theater is a visceral experience. You feel it in your bones almost, especially a musical, because it's just so powerful and impactful. So being moved by that's really, I get it, because that's the way we're wired. But the notion that you took it as a way to inform who you were, and you continued at Northwestern in drama, is that correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
What are the lessons that you learned from theater and drama and storytelling?
Well, now I work with people in behavior, and to me, acting and drama is a study in human behavior. What motivates people? What creates character? And when I say character, I mean a number of things. One is the thing that really drives a person, but also those quirks and habits that we each have as individuals, the style of how we present ourselves. So the story of character and human motivation and human development is fascinating to me. And I think theater is a great way to study that. Certainly, if you're looking to become, if you're looking to be an actress, right, you need to understand people. You need to understand it on many, many levels. And so I got to study behavior a lot. And I think that helped me so much with how I see things and how I'm able to serve today.
Was and I'll ask this from my own personal experience, because when I moved from New Jersey, I moved to California and I moved to San Francisco, and I met Danny Glover and other actors from the Shakespearean theater company in San Francisco.
Wow.
And kind of got sucked in. My wife is creative, and so said, "Why don't you take an acting class?" And they had me quacking like a duck and a bunch of other things. And I was like, and because I wasn't completely grounded in being myself, I was like, whoa, wait a second. This is a little too much. I can't handle it.
Sure.
Right. What kind of struggles did you experience as you were trying to get into character, or you were trying to open up to embrace characters in the roles that you may have played? I mean, for me, it was a struggle I never got over. I never found my way, although I became a sales professional, which is in many ways getting into character.
Yes.
But not the way an actor does. talk a little bit about that, because I think, and I'm asking the question relative to struggle. Was it easy for you, or did you find it that you had to adapt to it?
No. I actually was a very talented kid. I was a good singer, and I had very good pitch, and I was a good actress too. But as I grew into my teen years and as self-consciousness took over, I couldn't access that talent in the same way anymore. And it was an enormous struggle, because the feedback that was coming back to me is, to your point, Art, you don't know who you are. Yeah. And that was so painful to realize in front of a group of people. And by that time, at around 15 and 16 years old, the people that I was acting in front of were older than me, and it was a little humiliating. But actors are constantly, modern actors, and not always Shakespearean actors in the same way, but are always in this self-reflective process about how to break down their barriers, how to connect more deeply with their feelings so that they can emote more clearly in character. So acting is very confronting.
It's confronting. And was it coaching or mentorship that got you to perform better, to be more open to the shifting personas that you would embrace, or how did you do it?
Absolutely. So, as I was saying, at around 16, I had this crisis. This talent that was very accessible to me was no longer, and I was really upset that I felt like I couldn't act anymore. I felt blocked, and someone recommended I go to an acting teacher who was also a therapist. She was a mind-body therapist. And we worked on my monologue for maybe 2 or 3 sessions. And then she looked at me and she said, I think we need you to do some work, sweetie. Well, that was really the beginning of the journey of mine that's most interesting to me, and I think most helpful to the people that I work with, was this excavation to find out who I was beyond, at that point, a daughter and a high school student. Right? To really find out the nature of my character, an ongoing process. But what happened in that moment, in working with that woman, that mentor of mine, that therapist of mine, was that a transformation happened, Art. And I became less interested in the process of acting for the sake of the art, and more interested in the process of transformation and what the information that kind of unraveling yourself in the service of art could bring you. So this is something interesting for any of you listening who've ever been in an acting class or never been in an acting class. One of the things I find fascinating is that when someone really commits to a character, really commits in a scene, parts of themselves that they didn't even really know existed become accessible. So I found it fascinating that by playing someone else, people could, in a sense, experience more of themselves.
Wow.
And I didn't want it to end there. I wanted people to harness the aspects of themselves that they had got from playing another character and be able to use them or incorporate them into their everyday story.
Wow. I want to ask the question that I'm going to come back, and the question is, I know science now tells us that when people sing in a choir or chorus, after singing for a few measures, their hearts will begin to beat in unison. And that is incredible to me, because it shows how connected we all are. And I imagine in the theater, when a theater troupe is working together, there's the synchronicity of the moments that you know the other person's line and when they're going to come in, and you come in the cadence. Is that something that is that part of the experience?
Yes, there's a collective dance that happens. And people who aren't for some reason able to really go with the flow in that dance usually become the problem children of the theater family that forms with every production.
Is that collective dance informative of, the quantum physics of the world we live in terms of, if you can do it in the theater with 20 people in the cast, the troupe, that it's evidence that we are connected? Does that?
That's beyond the scope of my knowledge to be able to answer that.
Okay.
It sounds really plausible, and I like it as a concept, but I'm not actually trained to know the answer. But here's something I'd like to say, because I work a lot with relationships, personal relationships, as well as business relationships. And what I can say is that we fall into patterns of behaviors that I call dances. I call them dances. And to be able to see the dance that you are doing enables you to change it.
And I know you're a folklorist. You studied folklore. You've studied storytelling. Do you use storytelling? I'm sure in acting and the work that you do, but do you use storytelling in the clinical work you do, the therapy that you do as a clinician?
Well, I mean, when I'm not working as a psychotherapist in the same way that I used to, but of course, what I used to work with people for 5 or 6 or 10 years, it was all about uncovering their story as part of discovering who they are. But now, just before I got on the call with you, I was writing a proposal for an organization in New York. And one of the exercises I'm going to have them do is create a timeline together of the company and the company's growth so that everyone can get on the same page. There's some new people, they're growing, they're in a phase shift in their business. And so we're going to do that timeline storytelling exercise as a way to have people join in story, tell their own stories of the organization, and be able to create a collective narrative.
Wow, that is powerful. It shows the power of story and narrative to change the culture of an organization. Yeah. Because when the stories all combine in like a tapestry, they become one. Yeah. Then people really get to look and say, well, this is who we are. And isn't that wonderful? And they can sink into that culture, embrace it, and then communicate that culture to the outside world. And as consumers, we care deeply about the culture and the businesses that we work with. So storytelling sounds like it's really an incredible way to get engagement, employee engagement, team engagement that we all should be thinking about using if we have teams.
I agree. And I know, too, that you do that work, and it sounds to me like you do it really well.
Well, thank you.
Sure.
I try. I wanted to inject another idea that's not from me. It's from Scott Cronin into the conversation because it leads us somewhere else. And it's just another testimonial. Mm-hmm. And this is not to flatter you or heap, a lot of.
Okay, I'm going to blush, everybody. Blush alert.
A lot of platitudes on you, but I think it says. So Scott says, having been an executive coach for the past 25 years, I am used to giving advice and not easily open to receiving it. Even when I do seek advice from others, there is an inherent skepticism. Blair is one of the rare individuals I not only listen to, but seek her advice and counsel. When I need someone to cut through to the heart of the issue, Blair provides a magnified mirror of my current reality that reflects how I got where I am and what I need to do to move forward. Scott Cronin, executive coach and consultant. 25 years as an executive coach. And I think this is really evidence of the truth that no matter how sophisticated you are as a coach, you always need a coach or a mentor. And we all need coaches. And this really is the power of this blab, really, I hope for others that are watching now and watching in replay, is that if Scott Cronin, a 25-year-old coach, a 25-year coach in the profession, he's in his 60s. He's been coaching for 25 years. He's successful, but he still looks to Blair to help him accomplish more. We all need coaches. But in this, what he said was that you're a magnified mirror of his current reality that reflects how I got where I am and what I need to do to move forward. This notion of magnifying somebody's reality and finding things that they're doing but they're not aware of, like the Johari window I talk about a lot, is that things I know about myself and you know about me. Mm-hmm. Then there are things that I don't know about myself, but you can see. And it sounds like that's the work that you do. Yeah. Is that expertise that you have learned through the craft, the profession, or is that what you've learned through the profession and also some inherent intuition that you bring to the work that you do?
It's all in the mix. It's all a part of the soup. Chicken or egg, I don't know. Studying human behavior early on at 8 years old, did that develop my intuition? Was I always intuitive? I think there are other people that can argue that better, but I will say that, I have a master's degree and a license in psychotherapy, so I have been trained to look a certain way. I've had years of my own personal growth work with a variety of therapists and coaches, certainly the acting training. So, that's my best answer.
Of all of those therapists, is there a modality that was most helpful for you in your experience? And if so, have you brought any of that forward into your practice?
I think you nailed it. I think that the experience of being seen was so powerful for me, really being seen. And it's difficult to put into words what that is. Sure, there are reflections about maybe my motivations or my reactions that I haven't been totally aware of, and that's illuminating. And then there are reflections of qualities that I have that, because I'm me, I might not be able to put into words. Mm-hmm. And then maybe the most powerful are those that have been able to reflect for me what my growing edge is, what it is that I'm actually learning and studying as I'm moving through that phase of my life. That, to me, perhaps has been the most powerful way of being seen. And I do strive to offer all of those three ways with the people that I work with. And because I started so young, I'm pretty good at it. I wish I had a GIF of that look.
Something jumped off the wall over there. I wasn't sure what it was. I think that's beautiful. And I think now might be a good time to really go to the practice. You talked and touched on a little bit about how you went from theater to working with a therapist, finding the work fascinating, that kind of launched you into a career as a therapist yourself. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about that transition, that evolution.
This is a fun story. I like it because I graduated from Northwestern Theater. I moved to New York. I moved to LA first, similar. I went to the West Coast first, came back to New York and pounded the pavement. I was actressing, I call it, which is a blend of going on auditions and waitressing. And I got a part in some off Broadway play. Might as well have been in Siberia. And and I got a part, right? And I was just not happy. I was really like, wait a second, I'm supposed to be so excited to come to the theater every night, and I'm not. This is not going to be the best use of my talents. I knew it in that production, but I had spent so many years focused on training and trying to move towards creating a life for myself as an actress that it was a very hard identity crisis shift to go through. But what I understood when I really sat down and got clear was that I was a very talented actress, and that I was I love to teach. I love to teach people about acting and human behavior. And so I thought I invented this thing called drama therapy, because I thought, well, hey, I'm going to be a healer who uses drama to help people grow. Then I found out that there actually was something called drama therapy, and I went ahead and got a master's degree in it. And then I taught at a variety of places, some of which you mentioned, on an academic level. And then I grew out of sort of that phase of my career. But
that's fascinating, and I think it's the trajectory is almost storybook like, because
totally.
It's from the age of 6 you've been intrigued by theater, you become a thespian, you become disenchanted. It's the hero's journey.
Very much. Well, and also the Yoda, I want to make an intro if we're going to do that. The Yoda that I had, the mentor, was a theater director who was also a mind-body therapist. What a weird connection, right? So
it's being in the right place at the right time to have encountered that therapist that turned you and challenged you, no doubt, to step into your true self as a mentor, a coach, and a guide. using your years of commitment to drama as part of the go forward. That's just amazing. I love this story. And so you founded the business, what, 15 years ago or so?
More than that. I started in 1998. The first phase was to open a studio where I taught actors, but in a very sort of on the edge of personal development, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And so first I was an acting teacher, and I had a column on Playbill Online. I wrote a column called Ask Blair. I also had a job at Playbill, and I wrote, this was part of the writing that's now part of my work, I wrote a lot of stories about theater. So I created the studio in New York, and I taught actors. And then I got the degree in drama therapy so that I could work with people really therapeutically. And that took me through a phase of about 12 years. So 1998, then 12 to 13 more years of really just being a psychotherapist who had still this connection to theater, then through Eve Ensler's play, The Vagina Monologues. Eve and I went to work for Eve's organization, and she gave me her blessing to create a workshop called the Vagina Monologues Workshop to help empower women.
You were probably in the audience when I saw her at the 92nd Street Y 4 or 5 years ago.
Maybe. Yeah, I certainly would have been in the audience anywhere between 1998, I think, 2000 and 2005. And that was just a great time in my life. That was a popular workshop. I got a lot of clients from doing it, but also it was just really exciting to be able to engage women in really interesting questions about their sexuality and help them involve their creativity in freeing them to feel that they could have more authority and pleasure in their lives.
So how did the evolution of your ideal prospect develop? It sounds like first you had actors that you were coaching and counseling. Right. Then you had this focus on mostly women, the Vagina Monologues, right? But I now think that then you have corporate executives, CXO.
All right, so here's the last part of the story, the last turn. The mentor that I mentioned to you, who I was very close with until she died 15 years ago today.
Oh, wow. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. How honoring her today then.
Yeah, I know. It's such a good feeling to be talking about her so much. And anyway, on this day, but her husband is a renowned organizational consultant.
Organizational development kind of?
Exactly. Organizational development consultant. And he has become a mentor of mine. And as I began talking with him in about 2010, I believe, everything about the way I was thinking started to change. First of all, my work with women began to evolve from sexual empowerment to leadership. And I ran a workshop called How to Find Your Real Work. How to Find Your Real Work, helping women find work that they were passionate about, that utilized most of their talents, that made them feel like they were delivering something good to the world. And that became a series of workshops, and I ran that probably till 2013. And from that, I started to work with executives in leadership corporately. And then it kind of developed naturally. And with my mentorship with this organizational consultant, Dick Nodell, I just started to have whole new ideas about personal relationship, leadership, and that's where you find me today.
Wow. An amazing journey. I want to go back. We talked about how you take advantage of your strengths that you've honed over years. Mm-hmm. And on your website, you talk about authority mentoring, mm-hmm. You talk about couples coaching, mm-hmm. executive coaching, and you host retreats. And there's a really interesting, because you live in Woodstock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Hold on, let me shut the door.
Okay. Good. So the Walk With Me retreat that I found interesting, and I'll just summarize it. It says, pack up your current struggles and bring them with you to New York's Hudson Valley for a streamside walk in the woods. These 1 to 3 hour walks have been known to birth innovative, creative ideas, alter stuck perspectives, and solve major relationship problems. With a little help from nature, these walks are guaranteed to take mentees in a new business or life direction. I love that. And I think, because I really believe that what the world of business needs today is innovation through creative ideas and resilience. And I know you're all about resilience as well. I mean, and innovation, creativity, and resilience. If we can find that by walking in the woods, that's amazing. How it sounds easy, but I'm sure that you have to let go in order to find that. Talk a little bit about that retreat or that walk with me experience, and how it unfolds, and how it's worked for some of the mentees that you've worked with.
Sure. I'm thinking now about two situations that are opposite, that are good ones to bring. One is somebody who actually lives somewhat near me in the Hudson Valley and just gets so much inspiration from being outside that's our office. That's our office. But more what it's like is, and as a woman I'm thinking of that comes up from the city, who's usually stressed beyond her shoulders are up here. She gets off the bus and she's like, oh, let's just go. And when we go into the woods, she doesn't settle into the walk probably until about halfway from that walk with me session. She's all of a sudden she'll say, I actually saw that bird. You know what I mean? And she's just in the storage. So being able to help to have an environment that we're not normally in inspire us for the innovation. Being able, I'm thinking of this great story. Let me tell you really quick. I think you'll like this one. A normal walk that I go on was interrupted by a stream that had sort of lost its way. And so it had been much broader at the place where we usually cross it. And we were talking about an issue that this leader was having with her team. And all of a sudden, we're not able to cross the stream, and the conversation stops, and we're doing a little problem solving about how to do it without getting so wet. And we're walking upstream, and all of a sudden this metaphor is becoming very clear to me that this is very much her experience right now. She's struggling. She's not sure how to help people get across. She's not as, skilled at helping, talking about the brainstorming. She's more caught up in her anxiety. And I let her choose the path across, and she had to bring us up and down a few times. And then finally we found it. And it was a great discussion about how it was a metaphor for some of the challenges that she was going through, but that being direct, the most direct path, the one that she had her initial intuition, was the one that we ended up taking, even though we tried a lot of other routes. And that also was something that she was struggling with, her authority, that she would know something and she would know the right way, but she would get a little bit scared that maybe it would be hard or her team wouldn't like it, or, and so it was a great metaphor.
That's amazing. I think that it's nature is a great teacher, because it is what it is, and it challenges us to be who we are, right? And to approach things.
Nicole? Is Nicole on here?
Yeah, right, Nicole Levant. I like going back to your website. That again, I think is beautiful, and I think it talks about the work you do in a really, really neat way, as it leads with authority is sexy, and authority is sexy, and I think the other line is because authority is attractive. Talk about your ideal prospect and who you can serve anybody, but who is your numero uno? Who's the one that is most, that you do the best work with and you enjoy working with the most?
Well, one of the things that's been difficult for me about being an entrepreneur is that there are actually two ideal prospects, and I do not favor one or the other. Okay. So I've been going back and forth because I know people have advised me, well, stick with one and the other will come. And I can't let go, Art. So I will tell you both ideal prospects.
Okay.
One is a CEO who is, or, COO, no, I don't usually work with CFOs, but a C-suite executive or a newly hired higher level manager who is constantly putting out fires and unable to do the leading that they envision themselves to do because reality has set in and they're scrambling. Or if they're in a phase shift, right? They want to grow the business and they don't know how to work as a team and create a culture that's going to continue that. So I'm looking for executive leaders, and then usually work with them over a period of time to help them through a particular piece of growth. And that is something I am so excited and honored to be able to do. But then on the flip side, thank you, that's so sweet. From the flip side, I have created a model for how people can be in intimate relationships without a lot of drama, and in a way that helps them keep love alive. And these two goals are very, very big in me. And I'm very passionate about this leadership or authority in relationship work, because what I think is that, as marriage becomes an institution that we don't have to buy into, people are getting really creative about how to create relationships that engage them and that matter to them. But we're a little short on skills.
Just the conversation skills, right, are hard for many people.
Yes, exactly. The conversation skills, the negotiation skills. Yes. How do we deal with our own woundedness? Because intimacy can be so provocative, and how do we deal with that so that we don't end up trashing the relationship or pushing people away to the point where they can't get back to us? How do we bring certain kinds of awarenesses into our relationship to take care of it without talking about the relationship all the time? So these are two things that I'm very passionate about. They seem different, and perhaps in some ways they really are, but at the core, it's about authority. In one context, it's professional authority, and the other, it's personal.
I honor that, and I completely agree. I want to go back to the notion of ideal prospect, because I talk a lot about ideal prospect, but I've come to believe that you can start with one ideal prospect, right? My ideal prospect's a green pen with a little rubber thing on the end of it.
I know a few of those. I'll refer you when.
And my other is a graphite pencil, that's a number 4B. And if I know them well, and I know each one of their narratives, I can have two ideal prospects, and then I can add a third. But I have to first study the third one to know its narrative before I can bring it into the family of prospects. Because when I know its narrative, I know how my value serves them and how they'll be changed after they get it. And I have a connection with them, and they fit because they benefit from what I have to offer. So we can have a handful of ideal prospects, and it's okay, but we have to do the work to know how they're benefited or changed by getting what we offer.
Yeah.
And your two ideal prospects, the CXO or the people trying to keep love alive,
to find or keep satisfying love. Yeah, exactly.
And I think you call it authority. I call it leadership. Yeah. Because you're developing leaders. And in each of us, no matter whether we're a founder, a solopreneur, an employee, a husband, a brother, a son, a wife, a sister, a member of the world, of the society, we each have an opportunity to express ourselves and lead with our ideas and learn the skills of relationship literacy. Is all about communication, and that literacy sounds like those are skills that you teach, whether you're helping people learn how to communicate better, and first with themselves and then with the world around them by walking in nature, or just coaching and mentoring them over a series,
over the internet, right,
and working with a CXO so they can become more self-aware, so they can then lead the organization that they're responsible for that's fascinating. We have burned through
Wow.
46 minutes.
Wow.
I haven't even scratched the conversation the way I wanted to, because I really am fascinated with this, the actor in you and the storyteller in you and the therapist mashup all together make you a really unique personality, all equipped because of all those experiences you've had to see the patterns in the lives of people, and then to help them sort it out. That's and right. Bring it into greater focus. Yeah. I honor that in you and the work that you do. And I also, I know you say you don't do the clinical work anymore, but that certainly has to inform the one-on-one work that you do, because you are equipped better than the average bear, right?
Absolutely.
To do the work expertly. And I think it's true. I say we coach. That's what I refer to myself as doing. And I, however, honor someone that has been trained as a clinician, because there's a deeper dive than what I am able to do. And that there are people, not because they have greater troubles, but they have greater need to understand that the clinical practitioner can guide and nurture those people the way they need it and the way they're seeking it. So
yeah. I mean, at this point, I think the gift that I would have is to be able to see it and get them the right help, because I won't walk that with them, mostly if there's deep trauma there. I do love that work and I have great respect for it. It's just not where my vision is right now. But to be able to see it and to refer it out accurately, I think is really important, and something that a lot of people in the, executive spaces don't have an eye for.
Right. And I mean, here on Blab, you could take a poll of the 2,500 people on Blab right now, let's say, and you'll find an inordinate amount of coaches that all come at it from a different direction. And I think it's incumbent upon the buyer to know what they don't know about how that coach operates, and ask the thoughtful and insightful questions to ascertain whether they're going to be able to serve me. And hopefully this Blab, for those in the stream listening, have heard what makes a coach, and how Blair brings all of her life experiences forward to help people accomplish more. And hopefully it helps people listening in the stream and listening on replay form the questions that they should be asking when they are seeking a coach or a mentor.
Yes.
Which I think is really, you ask the right questions, you get the answers, and you either opt in or you opt out. No, wrong answer, I got to move on. But you have to know what questions to ask. And so if you can share some wisdom about what questions people should be asking of coaches.
Gerald has an interesting question. I don't know if you saw it.
No.
He wrote, what is the key to establishing effective communication in relationships, professional and personal? Oh. I joked and said to him, do you have 3 days?
Isn't it communication? Isn't it? Is it the key to communication? Go ahead.
Yeah. I'm never a person that coaches from a perspective of there's one key or there are 4 steps. I've had people who've taken nonviolent communication and they swear by it. But as I experience talking to them, sometimes I find them to still be very violent people, even though they're using the right language. And so one key, Gerald, that I would suggest is that people pay attention to how the aggressive impulse manifests in them, because that's where communication starts to go wonky in any situation. When you have that feeling of, oh no, they didn't just say that. And then you speak from that place, it's got a high percentage of not going well. Huh. So the first thing that I recommend to people is to really get clear on what happens in your body when you start to feel defensive, aggressive, attacked or attacking, because that's the first beat. of being able to understand the dance and being able to eventually take a pause to see, wait, if I actually, submit to this fire in this communication, how's it really gonna take what I want to happen to the next level? Is it really going to further my cause, or is it going to create a deeper entrenchment into a polarized struggle with the other person?
So is that in 2 words, would you call that self-awareness?
Yes, I would. But I think self-awareness needs to be specific to the aggressive impulse. How does it manifest in your body? Does your stomach get in knots?
Yeah.
To be really just clear, your eyebrows go up. That's so great. Yeah, exactly. When your eyebrows start to go up, it's like, oh, my eyebrows are up. Maybe I need to leave the room and take a breath. Maybe I need to just say to the person, hold on. This isn't going to go well.
that self-awareness where you can step out and go to the balcony and say, I need to take a few deep breaths before I continue this conversation, is what leaders, the CXOs that you coach, no doubt, coaching them on that kind of self-awareness so they can feel that visceral experience and know when to stop and know when to continue and go on. And I think the same thing when you're working with your significant other or your teenage child or it's all of those things. And I think another thing that in my lay understanding of communication is, I know a lot of people will say, Blair, that's great, but that but is the wrong way to inject yourself into a conversation, because you're saying I agree, but I really don't agree, as opposed to saying, that's important and here's something I think. So just but stops the conversation, and an and allows it to continue. And I think we have to be, and I know a lot of people are studying this notion of linguistics and the power in a simple word like but. When we get its impact, we learn to use it less if we're trying to have a fluid conversation. But discounts everything you said before it. It's so true. It's so true. Well, listen, I promised 45 minutes and we're at almost 55 minutes now. And as you can see, the sun is streaming through my window.
Yeah.
It's
I'm jealous.
It's trying to tell me that the Gem and Jewelry Show is here in Tucson for a couple of, it's actually ending today. So I haven't been.
Go get some Valentine's Day wares.
There you go. You got to do something, right? Otherwise, that's a different conversation, right?
Totally.
Here, dear. Here's am I honoring you with my gift of my Valentine? So a couple of questions to end the conversation, kind of crazy questions that for you won't be challenging at all.
Oh, the pressure.
If you could ask just one person, alive or dead, for advice, which person would that be and why?
One person, alive or dead, for advice. This is gonna sound weird, but it's not quite advice, but I'm really curious about what people in super major leadership positions do to get through their everyday existence. So I would love to sit down with somebody like President Obama and just have a heart-to-heart about, like, what is going on? How are you making these decisions? Do you sleep? What are your dreams like? That's something that I've always really wanted to do.
Well,
so.
you prefaced my next question. What is your biggest life dream?
My biggest life dream. Okay, so I have been working really hard on a book condensing these ideas of how to create and sustain really dynamic, drama-free relationships. And so a dream of mine would be able to actually see that book come to fruition. I'm working on a really big article right now, which is very potentially going to get into a place where different audience could see it. And I could actually get some money for it, which would be delicious. And for that article to generate some interest in a book proposal would be delightful for me. Thank you.
That is fantastic. And so share 2 pieces of advice from you to the entrepreneurs and solopreneurs and business owners on the Blab and those listening on replay?
Okay, 2 pieces of advice.
Yep.
This is a simple one. It's not unique to me, but know your why, because the journey is so chaotic and often sometimes goes in the exact direction than you think it's going to go, that if you can have a discipline of reconnecting to why you're doing it, whether it's your own personal joy or because you believe in the mission or because you love the impact that you see that it could make, or even if it's just because you want to be rich, just know your why and be able to come back to it when the going gets tough.
Yeah. And how do people get in touch with you? I know they can go to your beautiful website. I was commenting on how impressive Blair's website is, because seeing Blair on Blab and then seeing her website, you get the same essence of the brand called Blair, which is amazing. But most importantly, the brand called Blair is demonstrating how authority can be sexy, and how being authoritative is attractive. It's what we should all be striving to be. And that's what Blair says on her website. And that, I think, is what we've heard today, that she does for people in brands, and businesses and business professionals. So thank you so much for, spending your hour with me here on Blab. I wish I was a better interviewer, because I know that there's so much depth there that will help each of us learn some things, not just about you, but about the process of storytelling and how we can take some tools that are generally available to all of us, use them in the right ways, like a walk in the woods, to ground ourselves with problem solving, to inspire our innovation and creativity, and to learn to be resilient. So
thank you. I think you did a great job, and I love talking to you. And I don't know if the blush has worn off from all of the lovely things that you said, but they were very, very warming to hear on this cold day on the East Coast. I agree, Gerald. Professor, you are a great interviewer.
Thank you.
Straight from the Reverend's mouth.
Thank you. And look, thanks to everybody that's stuck with Blair and I here on Blab and has passed through the Blab today and listening on replay. I invite only the most interesting people with the most thoughtful and compelling ideas to share, to chat with. And as I said at the beginning, I do this mainly so I can get their brilliance for free. I don't have to pay the $800 an hour or whatever they charge to get the same ideas. I've listened, I've learned because of my curiosity on this Blab, and every time I have an opportunity to talk with you, Blair. And I think if those that are listening on replay or now were listening like I was, they've gotten a few gems that they can use in their personal or professional lives. And this quote, I have to find out, because I want to attribute it to somebody and I don't know who it is.
Okay.
But it says, "We choose our life by the choices we make. Be exceptional." I think I tried to say it was a Gerald or someone else. It might be, but I want the person that said it first to raise their hand. And it might be a TED Talk.
Gerald.
Is it Gerald?
Yeah.
I thought so. Thank you, Maestro. I'm using your quote right here, right now, because it's brilliant, as Gerald is. And so, Blair, give us your domain name and whatever other methods you want people to use to reach you.
So that is the website right there, blairglaser.com, 1 S, no E on Blair. You're always welcome to reach me there through my contact page, blair@blairglaser.com. And I have an invitation for anyone to have a chat with me, a 20-minute chat to explore what's going on for you, where you feel like you're not in your authority, and what you might need to step into it so that you can feel really good about the choices that you're making.
Fantastic. And listen, I'm Art Jones. I am the principal consultant at The Art of Standing Out, as to hashtag TAOSO. I help businesses and business professionals accomplish more by getting in alignment and harmony with their own narrative and the narrative of their ideal prospects, so they can serve them better and accomplish more. I'm on Blab on Thursdays and Fridays around 10 a.m. talking to interesting people with thought-provoking and compelling ideas to share like Blair. So tune in again. We are hoping to continue this journey and hear these stories of these wonderful people that agree to sit in the seat beside me. So thank you, Blair.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. Thanks to everybody for joining us. And until next time.
Woodstock.
Live from Woodstock. Oh my gosh, in 2016.